Leaders, we can't be afraid to be wrong. What does this look like when we play scared and afraid to make mistakes and afraid to be wrong? Well, it starts with we only share the positive news with our teams. That's a big mistake. I learned that early in my career where I made that mistake. I didn't trust that my team could handle negative news. I thought they'd panic and get scared and maybe leave. And I really got challenged by the founder of our company who said, if you share the news, you get to tell them everything. How can they help you if you don't share the good and the bad? And if they get scared and leave based on the bad news, then you didn't have the right team by you in the first place. So don't be afraid to share the bad news. Okay? You can't only share the positive news. People see right through that and they start to not trust that as well. And when that happens, when you only share, when you're afraid to be wrong, you also get sort of paralysis by analysis. We've all heard that term, right? We research and we research and we research and we're afraid to ever put something out there because we're afraid it's going to be wrong. Look, most of everything we put out there the first time is wrong. What's the term I've used before that I learned? That all models are wrong. Some are useful, right? So you have to be wrong. You're not going to be right all the time sitting in the conference room, because when you go to execute on something in the real world, it's going to look different. Things are going to happen, and then you have to adjust and to do that. So leaders, you can't be afraid to be wrong. I see when people are afraid to make mistakes, afraid to be wrong, they don't do anything. They get that paralysis. And that will just cripple your team, because they're not making progress, they're not learning, they're not growing from there. They also don't stretch themselves. When you're afraid to be wrong, you don't stretch yourselves. You put out these goals, and you know they're easy to hit goals. They're easy targets, right? They don't inspire anybody. You throw something out there just so you can check the box and to do that, right? When you're not afraid to be wrong, you put stretch goals out there. Goals that you say, I'm not even sure how we're going to get there, but that's what we're going to go for. Jim Collins calls it a BHAG. We use that all the time around here. But it doesn't have to be a BHAG. It should be a stretch goal, right? But not an easy, why put a target out there if you just absolutely know that you're going to hit it? That doesn't inspire anybody. So, and people do that when they're afraid to miss the target. And by the way, as leaders, we have to make it safe for our teams to put goals out there that they might not be able to hit, right? Stretch goals. We have to make it okay for them to make mistakes, okay for them to be wrong, right? When you do all these things, when you only share the positive news, when you're afraid to be wrong, when you put easy targets out there, it just shows a lack of confidence. It's not inspiring. It's not going to help your team. So I share these traits and characteristics, and I want you to look in the mirror, reflect, and say, am I doing any of that? Right? And sometimes when we have momentum on our side, we're full of confidence, we'll put all those stretch goals out there. But sometimes when things aren't going our way, we pull back, right? And we play it way too safe. And at the end, that's not how you play to win. All right? So take a look at these things. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Put big goals out there, inspire your team, and get after it.